Good afternoon, Deacon Nation. This is Les Johns with a variation of my More with Less podcast. We're going to start doing these a couple times a week, and my first guest on this Zoom meeting podcast format is, you might not recognize him with the rather robust beard, but this is Wake Forest head football coach Dave Clawson. Dave, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me, Les.
Let's start off this chat by just what's home life for you right now, Dave? How are you and Catherine and Eric and Courtney faring around the Clawson household in these trying times?
Well, I'm doing fine. You may want to ask them how they're doing. This is the most time I've ever spent with my family, and Catherine and I have been together 25 years now, and there's parts of it that are enjoyable. Getting all this time with my family, it's a little bit of a silver lining. This isn't the way any of us wanted it to happen, but it's something we're certainly trying to make the best of while we have it, this time together. And at the same time, there's a lot of those little challenges of internet and bandwidth, and my kids are doing online classes. So I jumped outside for this interview because my daughter is on an online class right now. And I think just a lot of things that nobody ever thought could happen, but it's all fine. And relatively speaking, we have nothing to complain about.
What's the reaction around the house been? I've had folks ask me to ask you this. What's with the beard? How do you like it? And is this something we're going to see in season down the road?
No, you won't see it in season. I've never enjoyed shaving. It's something that I've always, felt I had to do for my job. And this was an opportunity to not have to shave for a while. I don't know how much longer it's going to go. It'll probably come off fairly soon here. So it was just a matter of, we were on spring break and I didn't shave, and then we came back and we were quarantined and I didn't shave, and I've never grown a beard before. So, actually there was only a few grays and I decided to color the whole thing gray just to make it fit in.
I'm sure when you're only about 32, 33 years old, you don't have that much gray hair that shows up. Of course, I don't have any hair that shows up, so that's beside the point.
Yeah. So it's, half the time my wife and kids don't recognize me, which during this time period might be a good thing.
This week, the news kind of broke that it looks like you stepped up and kind of volunteered to take a 10% pay cut during these trying times with the athletic department. What led to you doing that, Dave, and what do you hope that accomplishes?
Well, really, the leadership came from our president, that Dr. Hatch and the cabinet did it. And, John Curry shared with me that the president and his cabinet were going to take that step. And is that something I'd be interested in doing? And I said, absolutely. That, it's a very small sacrifice given everything that's going on at Wake Forest, our university. And if that's something that can help the university and help our athletic department, I certainly, and I shouldn't say me, because these are family decisions, that Catherine and I certainly wanted to do our part.
One thing that kind of just broke right before I started taping this with you is that next Wednesday, it looks like you and John Curry are having like a virtual lunch with Wake Forest fans. What's the purpose of that, and what do you hope to get out of that event, Dave?
I think more than anything, Les, during this time, and this is with our football team, our staff, our friends, our neighbors, is just maintaining a connectivity with each other. I think the hardest part of the quarantine is just this isolation. And I'm fortunate to have a family that we enjoy spending time together, but I miss seeing our staff. I miss seeing our players. I miss those daily interactions. And I just think more than anything that we just, want to give people an outlet and have people feel that they're still connected to Wake Forest, our football team, our athletic department.
That's good stuff, Dave. And it's exactly the same thing I was thinking about when I started this. So once again, I appreciate you being around. Do you have a message maybe for Deacon Nation as to, like the Dave Clawson pep talk about what they need to do in the coming days and weeks, and what awaits for them at the end of this trying time, maybe, Dave?
Well, and this is very similar to what I told our team is, it at some point it's going to be over. We don't know when or how or what that's going to look like, but we play a part in that end. And taking the order to social distance, to flatten the curve, we all play a part in getting back so we can have college football. And I think all of us are, number one concern for the community and the health and welfare of people. But I think to open the country back up, and college football is very much a part of the fabric of our country, and the ACC and North Carolina and Wake Forest University, we help in expediting that process. So we've got to do our part. And then when the medical people and health officials deem it safe, we'll come back. What we control is how ready we are when we come back. And so for our team, this is where, their motivation level, how important is it to them? Not everybody's going to come out of this the same. And our hope is that we come out of this with an advantage because our kids and our student athletes took advantage of this time academically, athletically, got themselves in shape, did everything they could given their circumstances, to not use this experience as an excuse for anything to go wrong.
It's one of the things I was going to ask you to dig into, Dave. And I remember a year before last, you spent the entire summer analyzing how to address the injury situation a little bit better. And I can just imagine you in your little office at home, kind of analytically trying to figure out how to best navigate this for you and your team. In a strange sort of way, is this an opportunity for Wake Forest to kind of come out on the other end a little stronger comparatively to other programs?
Well, I think everything is relative. It's not ideal-less. A lot of our players don't have access to weight rooms. A lot of our players don't have access to a track or a football field. But neither does most of our competition. So that motivation of getting up in the morning and the ability to do stuff with body weights or backpacks filled with books, that choice of skipping a day eventually will catch up with all of us. And I think there's things that we can do. There's a lot of things that we didn't get to in spring football we wanted to get to, but through meetings and Zoom and video conferences, we can still get certain things installed. So we can still grow from this, from a football installation, our football IQ, staying on top of those things, so that the only challenge we have when we come back is getting our players ready physically.
In addition to football stuff, and you talked about spending time with family, what does Dave Clawson do for entertainment these days? Are you watching anything? Do you stay away from the news too much? What's the strategy there, Dave?
Well, this has given me a lot more time to devote to recruiting. And, I don't know if that's entertainment, but I think this probably is as much time as I've ever spent with recruits on the phone or FaceTime. And really, I feel I'm building earlier, faster relationships with some of the recruits because I can devote more time to it. And I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed getting up more on the front end of the recruiting process, which doesn't always happen as a head coach. And we've made time for health. I've taken walks with Courtney and Eric and gone for bike rides with Catherine, and a lot of the recruiting I can do at night. So after lunch, I may take a half an hour walk with Courtney and spend time with her. And I think so many times as a coach, you spend so many hours and you miss so much family stuff, and not that you ever make it up or get it back. But for me, this is a unique opportunity to get some time with my kids and my family that otherwise I would never get.
You mentioned recruiting, and you mentioned being on the front end of that more than you usually are. But I have to wonder, I know you extremely value in-person evaluations, and you weigh mightily what kids do in your camps. So obviously you have to be concerned that those June camps may not happen in June. You have to be concerned that you're not going to get that in-person evaluation that you usually get. How do you compensate for that, Dave?
That probably less is the greatest challenge we have. That um, I think we take a lot of pride in our ability to evaluate, and whether those evaluations happen during spring recruiting or our camps, we feel we've pulled a lot of diamonds in the rough because we trust our live evaluation.
And other coaches across the country also value your evaluation, it seems like.
No, it's amazing how many times that we will offer a player and we'll be the first Power 5, and there's a school or two that after we offer a player, a half an hour later they do.
It's amazing.
So, but Les, it is what it is. I certainly anticipate and hope that this will be a 1 year issue. Some of these players have already been to our camp last year as underclassmen. We have, their junior or their sophomore film we can evaluate. And whereas before that maybe we would put 50 or 60% of our evaluation on the live evaluation, the camp evaluation, we just can't do that now. It's not possible. So we have to evaluate the film a little bit more diligently. So we're watching more game film, not just highlight films. And we do that anyways, or creating point of attack films. We've spent a lot more time talking about kids and getting to know them and making sure they're fits for Wake Forest. And not that we've always done that. That's always been part of the process. But I think this has given us the chance to dive even a little more deeper into those type of evaluations.
Spring camp obviously only went like 1/3 of its desired length. What did you get out of it, Dave? Do you have some main takeaways out of the first 5 practices of spring camp?
Yeah, I think we're like the rest of the world. We would have loved to have 15 practices. There's schools in the ACC. I think the most anybody got was 9, and some schools didn't get any. What I really miss is we finally brought in a big mid-year class, and we were so excited to get those guys reps and get them ready to play, and that became a little bit more challenging. But like I said, we're not the only ones in this situation. So, there were some takeaways. Certainly felt really good about where we were at quarterback, and not just Sam Hartman, but I think Michael Kern, Mitch Griffiths, and even Leo Kelly have made progress. So I feel very good where we're going to be at quarterback. We didn't have Sage for spring football, but I'm very excited about some of the progress some of our younger receivers made. I think the depth at tailback is going to be outstanding. Certainly some of the offensive linemen that we need to step up appeared like they were starting to take those steps. So it's certainly encouraging to believe that once we do get back, they'll continue to develop. I really like the depth at the D-line. I think Boogie is probably even going to take another step forward, which is really exciting. Some linebackers were really stepping up. Jeff Burley was having his best camp. The corners, I thought Jasir Taylor looked really good. Kenneth Dix was doing some really good things for us. And again, I think the depth that we were starting to build at safety was exciting. So across the board, it was heading in the direction we wanted it. And, again, we'd have loved to get 10 more in, but it is what it is. And, I'm sure when those guys get back, we'll get them a lot more reps and a lot more work.
What's been the morale of the team as you've been on these Zoom meetings and personal calls with them? How have the young kids handled this? And then also, as like a secondary question to that is, it seems like in my interviews with them, they are taking this situation pretty serious. Did they take it serious from the beginning, or did that take some coaching and consultation as well, Dave?
Well, I think they have all they've all taken it seriously. I think when it first happened, they thought that this might be a 2-week or a 1-month thing.
Yeah, we all did probably.
And, you know, when you watch the news and read the statistics and, um, you know, I've had two people that I knew personally who have passed away from this, and
I'm sorry to hear that, Dave.
it's real. And, you know, there's people who are young that are passing away, and people in their 20s and 30s, and it's not just people who are 80. And uh, I think the message to our players is you have to take this really seriously. The way it was going, it was hard to imagine that all of us wouldn't have somebody that we would know that was affected by this. Um, and this is a national emergency crisis that we're going through. And I think at first the novelty of it was probably, hey, this isn't too bad, the online courses. I think right now, overall, our players are dying to get back. I think they probably appreciate what they have at Wake Forest, perhaps greater than ever. And I just think the relationships they have with each other, how much they miss that interaction. Um, you know, and I share with them, guys, hey, we're missing a spring, we're missing an off season. How about all those senior athletes or even the senior students that don't get to have their last semester at college, that don't get to go through a traditional graduation ceremony? I mean, how many things were planned as seniors that you just look forward to your last semester, senior year, that time with your friends? And in the grand scheme of things, what's been taken away from us is relatively minor compared to what other people are going through.
And I guess one of the last things I'll leave you with, because I know you got something else coming up, is NFL draft is next week. Will this be maybe the most watched NFL draft of all time because there's like nothing else on? And how excited are you for the prospects of some of your former players?
Yeah, I think right now people are just dying for sports. I think they're dying for sports and they're dying for haircuts. So I'm in both those categories. So I think pretty soon here I'm going to be in a ponytail or have a mullet going or something.
I think Deacon Nation would love to see Dave Clawson in a ponytail.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the draft, and we certainly have a number of players that we're really excited for, and we're hoping to hear their name called. But when this weekend's over, I'd be very surprised if we don't have in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 players that are signing NFL contracts.
Any final words for Wake Forest fans? Obviously, season tickets were trending at an all-time best. There's a lot of excitement, 4 consecutive bowl appearances. You have a ton of returning players on the defensive side of the ball, and Coach Ruggiero is the mad scientist of the offense. There's a lot of optimism going into 2020. Tell Wake Forest fans why they should still be excited about what they have in store for them in 2020 or 2021, whenever the heck the season happens.
You know, we have momentum. That optimism is still in place. And I think, you know, there's many times in life that things happen that are much more important in sports and football. And I think this is a time that we just have to stay connected. We have to stay connected as a program, as a department, a university, and Deacon Nation as a community. So stop in and have lunch with John Curry and I next week. You know, read Les Johns, subscribe to Les Johns.
You can say Connor too.
Yep, you can, and Connor too. Connor does a great job. Both you guys
Absolutely
thorough in covering our program, and we're grateful for your coverage. But just stay involved, stay connected, and when this is over with, hopefully we'll come out of this stronger than ever.
Dave Clawson, the bearded one, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure having you on. Stay safe, stay healthy, and go Deeks.
Go Deeks. Thank you, Les.